Here he is, three-time champ, 14 years in the league, current free agent, still wants to play. Danny Green joining us in studio. We haven't had Danny in studio either ever or in a long time. Just got bought out by, it was Cavs, Rockets. Now he's a current free agent. You want to play about 2 more years?
Yeah, at least a couple. I think I have a couple more years left. Definitely to hoop. The knees are good. The legs are fine.
Congratulations.
Thank
you have
you.
your first child?
Not yet. Not yet.
Close.
Okay. We're close.
It's a great time in your life. Take advantage of it.
Yes. We haven't announced it yet, but I guess we announced it here on the herd.
I didn't know that.
It's all good. It's all good.
I thought you told me.
It's all good. It's all good. No worries.
Look at me.
Hey, what a better place than here, you know?
What a faux pas by me.
It's all good.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with this. I hear this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jokić is boring. No, Jokić, it didn't have this much. And I look at him and I think, I see a little Duncan. I see a Larry Bird. I didn't think Bird was boring. How do players view this nonverbal second-rounder, doesn't jump? How do you view him?
I mean, he's special. I think we respect him. All NBA players, most NBA players respect each other. We know how good of a talent or how hard it is to make it, especially being a top player, an all-star, an MVP caliber player. So we know how good he is, how special he is. I think a lot of people would love to play with him. I think a lot of people love to compete against him.
You're a shooter. Wouldn't you love to play with him?
For sure. I mean, I've seen what some of the guys over there have done. KCP had a hell of a series. MPJ. They have some good pieces over there. But, yeah, I think nobody in the league underestimates him like the outside eye or the untrained eye does.
What's interesting, you said something, and this is, I think, really important. Shooters, it's easier to find a shooter than it is somebody physically that's built like Aaron Gordon. Like that body doesn't exist much, right? But there's a lot of guys like you, KCP, shooters. Not a ton, but it's easier to find because as unique as you are, there are 6'4", 6'5" guys that can shoot.
For sure.
And I saw LeBron do this. Ray Allen's like, I want to play with him. Shane Battier's like, I want to play with him. Mike Miller's like, I want to play with him. Let me ask you, LeBron James, Lakers could use a shooter. Milwaukee, in my opinion, could use a shooter. Are there teams you look at?
I definitely. And in today's game, things change so much in 24 hours. One day, Brooklyn could be a contender, and then the next day, they're not. So the draft is going to predict or it's going to end, not just the draft, but free agency. A lot of things, a lot of movement is going to happen to show what teams are going to be where. So, obviously, Houston, San Antonio being in the draft, they could change their whole organization around with the number 1 pick. So you don't know what organization or what team is going to be in the conversation of being a contender. So I definitely want to be in a contention type of situation, in a winning situation, and be, that vet, that locker room guy, but also be able to play and have an impact. So, but you never know what that's going to be. So each summer is different. Each team is different. You never know who's going to be a contender, who's not. And I think the draft will kind of predicate what's going to happen with certain teams.
So if you look at your career, you went to Carolina.
Yeah.
Very stable basketball program. You've had a lot of stability. Even though you've moved around, you've been with some really strong 3-time champ stable organizations. And you came in a slightly different era. We had one-and-done stuff, but now it's like the way to get into the league. And you see Ja Morant go sideways. You see Zion go sideways. And I look at it and I say I could blame the player exclusively, but I don't think Ja Morant's had much of a help. I think shoe companies want to make what they make. I think dad's to blame a little. I think the organization, the NBA. As the league has gotten younger in your decade and a half in the league, have you noticed this, that we're just simply asking 19-year-olds that couldn't have a beer in the hotel bar? Do you think sometimes the league is getting too young and asking too much of young players?
I don't think so. Because when I was coming out, if you recall, we were able to come out of high school. I was the last draft class to come out of high school. So I think there was still some young guys, obviously hard to compare to the Kevin Garnett's, the Kobe Bryant's, those guys that are special talents, but also took the game serious. But I think there maybe is a more abundance of the younger, because there was only maybe a handful of selected guys that were young. But, Ja he's done a couple years of college. He's 23, 24 years old. Zion as well. Like they're old enough to have been through it. So I put a little bit of blame on the people around them, but at some point, I have to look at them, at the person. They have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, this is on me. So yeah, I gave a little bit of blame to the people around them, their surrounding groups, their foundations. But for me, if you're over 22 years old, I feel like you've been through, I wouldn't say enough, but in some media training, Zion's been a top prospect since high school. So I'm sure he went to Duke, he's had some media training. I'm sure he had some people talk to him around him and give him advice. I'm sure Ja as well. I've been in that locker room, so I know people have talked to him. It's really upon them to take it and to actually learn from it and try to be better.
What, and I didn't prepare you for this, 15 years in the league. Mm-hmm. What is, as you're an aging player now, you obviously want to pick the right spot. I would just say this. I think Milwaukee works for you. I think the Lakers work for you. They need shooters. I think you're too smart and too much of a veteran to go to a circus. So I think Oklahoma City's an interesting fit for you. They could use
I don't disagree with any of those picks.
Okay.
I don't disagree with any of those picks.
Give me your favorite part of the league that I wouldn't know, that I wouldn't think of, that one of the things you just love about being an NBA guy. Let's start with that.
Okay. I think as you get older, you start to realize you don't take it for granted as much. Just the locker room space, the camaraderie of being with a group of guys and sharing just the plane rides, the bus rides. Those are probably the special times that I hear about that most guys miss when they leave the league.
Right.
Some guys gamble, some guys listen to music, but just being around, because when you're done playing, you don't have that anymore. You don't have a locker room. You don't have a group you travel with or see every day, crack jokes with. So I think the one thing that I do love about the league is that we get to travel for work. We get to play in front of thousands of fans.
Nice hotels.
To get paid. And we get to be with a group that we call our family. And that's something that I cherish more as I've gotten older.
Have you had a favorite teammate? Somebody that made you laugh? Somebody that was...
I can't pick just one person. There's a lot of people that on each team. But I can give you one that came to mind when you said that.
Yeah.
OG Anunoby. He in Toronto.
Yeah.
OG was one of my guys. I've had a couple of people in San Antonio. Rudy Gay was one of my guys. I had a couple guys in San Antonio. Patty, Kawhi, obviously the older group of guys. In LA, Bron was one of those guys. I used to sit with Bron, even though they had their plane. They switch up plane seats sometime, but there's different guys on different teams that I grew a liking to. Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, George Niang. He was one of the funniest guys I've been around. Him and Jared Dudley, I say, kind of go hand in hand of being some of the funniest teammates I've ever been around.
What's the thing about the NBA that I wouldn't think about that you don't love about it? Maybe a cultural change. Maybe
the business. It makes it kind of impersonal. When one day you could be with somebody you call a brother, the next day he's gone. It's the tough part about the business. I had a great 4 or 5 months in Memphis, and I grew really close to a lot of the staff and some of the team, my teammates, the players there. And then, I was traded within 24 hours, and that's part of the business. And you go from in-season trade is a lot different from off-season trade. You have to pick up a lot of everything and move in the middle of your season, and then kind of say goodbye to one family and welcome a new family and be a part of, a different brotherhood, a different fraternity within the within the league.
Yeah. So Victor Wembanyama next Thursday NBA draft will be picked number 1 by San Antonio.
I'd assume so.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a fantastic player. I think he'll score very early. I think guys will challenge him. We were talking about this, though, that I think stars are overrated. Milwaukee won a title, and Giannis was their only true star. Dallas won a title with Dirk. Jason Kidd was 37, no longer an all-star. I think impactful players are different. Aaron Gordon, is he a star? He's wildly impactful. Literally just leans on you.
100%.
Genetically, physically, shoulders, butt, leg. Jimmy Butler was exhausted by the end of the series. Drew Holiday has been impactful the first minute he entered the league. I don't know if he's a star, but he is riding you. He is a night's work if he's guarding you.
For sure.
So when you look at the NBA, we went back a couple days ago and looked at the last 10 years, and we're like, there's about 4 impactful players. Forget stars. Mm-hmm. Andrew Wiggins was a star in Minnesota. He wasn't impactful. He's impactful for the Warriors. Mm-hmm. Marcus Smart averages 11 a game. Impactful.
Very impactful.
Draymond Green, 7. Impactful. And I look at impactful as a winning player, a defined role, and somebody in the postseason that can get me a stop or a bucket. When you see young players come into the league, can you spot very early a Draymond or a Marcus Smart or an Aaron Gordon? Can you spot them and go, okay, I don't know if they're a star, but that dude, you want that dude in the room.
100%. There's definitely, I wouldn't say a bunch, but there's a couple of guys I knew that were going to. Tyrese Maxey was one of them. I just knew how he carried himself and his energy, the positivity he had. Desmond Bane, another one.
Yes. You saw it early.
These are guys that I'm like, I'm a fan of their game. I watch how they hoop. I watch how they approach the game.
Prep?
All the above. How much film they watch. But most of it's just their energy. How they positively step into the arena, the facility, how they approach things. Tyrese is one of those guys. He just was smiling all the time. And, was running up, obviously athletic,
we like
run up
him
and down.
A lot. He's an ascending
great.
star.
He's got a new podcast now, too, so shout
Does
out
he?
to him. I think he's doing the podcast thing. But, I just said love certain guys' energy, and you just knew and how they carried themselves, what they could bring to the table, and how they handled situations with the coaches, how they handle situations in the game, how they learn and bounce back from failing situations. They might have a missed basket one night or a missed assignment the next night, and they fix that quickly. When you see a guy be able to adapt and adjust that quickly, you can see they got something special in them. And even certain guys, like at the beginning of the year when I was in Memphis, David Roddy was a guy that I was like, he's not ready. But after his first month, he became a totally different player, got more comfortable, and next he's in the rotation for them in the playoffs. And he could be, I think, one of those impactful guys for Memphis in the years to come.
So we were talking about this. J-Mac said earlier, he said, Dame has been the man in Portland for years. Could he go to Miami where it's Jimmy Butler's team, Pat Riley's the architect, Bam's the defensive stopper, and you're not the man? And it's easy to say, well, those NBA players with egos. But the truth is, if you're a host for years, you may not want to be a co-host. It's not, it's Carmelo saw himself as a star. He didn't even like Jeremy Lin going off. I mean, Tom Brady, by the way, wanted Jimmy Garoppolo out the door. I get it. I understand. The reason you guys are great is your self-confidence. You tell me, if Dame went to Miami, now it's Jimmy's team. How do you think it would work?
It's a tough adjustment when it's thrown on you. When you're like Melo was traded into a situation where he was like, all right, we want you to come off the bench. It wasn't like he decided to go to that situation. Right. It was like, all right, I'm okay with being 1B or, being 2 in the situation. I think Dame, if he decides to be traded or wants to go somewhere, I think mentally he's already made that adjustment to be like, oh, I'm okay. And the fact that he's done it for so long, so many years, and I'm saying it hasn't been successful, but he hasn't won anything, but he's getting older. I think as you get older, you're okay with taking not a backseat, but passenger seat, So I think if he has that mentality and that approach and he's able to make that decision himself, he'll definitely feel comfortable with being a 1B in another organization like Miami.
There was an interesting moment earlier this year where Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, preseason punch thrown, and it was like, whoa, and they became a very bad road team. So I had theorized they're good at home, but on the road, the chemistry's not right. So,
sure.
So, I mean, they were like Houston bad. Like they were like, and so let me ask you that. Is that all you guys are at some level alphas? Kobe was a super alpha.
For sure.
But everybody's got a little alpha.
100%.
If somebody decked you, somebody decked me, I don't think I could never forget it.
No.
Can Draymond and Poole, are you best to disconnect it? How do you think that plays over time?
I don't think you ever forget it, but I think I don't know if it had happened at any point, but you have to let them fight it out at one time and let them have whatever fair fight, however you want to put it, and let them get over it. Because you can fight one day and be friends the next day. I've seen that maybe in the old school. I don't know about the new school generation.
You have seen that, though.
I've seen it happen. And then sometimes people gain a new respect for themselves, for each other. So either that needs to happen or they need to have a conversation that needs to be happened. But I don't think that was the main or sole reason they were a bad road team. I think they had gone through some changes. They lost Otto Porter. They lost
they got old.
They changed the different roads, different guys. They weren't as deep. Wiggins was out for some time during the year.
Yeah.
So that changes a lot in your dynamics of a whole team. Clay has come back stronger. He's himself again, so he's going to be a little more aggressive. Draymond had some time, I think, where he was out as well. So you have guys in and out of lineup and a different roster from last year. It's tough to, even you being the world champions, it's not an easy feat to just come together, especially after something like that happens, and be a great road team.
Most underrated player, 14 years in the league, the guy that you're always like, man, I don't like years ago, I asked Dominique Wilkins, I said, who didn't you like to play? And he goes, I loved playing Jordan because we could trash talk. He said, Bernard King scared the hell out of me. He goes, I couldn't stop him. It was 30 points. He goes, I wouldn't sleep the night before I faced Bernard King. By the way, he's not the only NBA player that's told me that. Bernard King remember that baseline fall away?
Yes.
Bernard had injury issues, but Dominique's like, no thank. He goes, Jordan, we're both vertical. It was fun. Is there a guy in the league that guys like me don't talk about, media, and you're just like, body type, different, hard?
Yes, there's different guys, different years in their primes. Obviously, you look at the Kevin Durant's, the Kyrie Irvings, the LeBron James, Steph Curry. Those are guys that are known. The guys that I hate guarding, that I had to chase, the J.J. Redicks, the Evan Fourniers. Those guys that nobody
Redick was a mover,
and he's coming off 300-pound screens with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. So, he gives you a little push, a little shove. Clay is great at it too, giving you a little push, coming off some good screens when it was Zaza there and Bogut.
Yeah.
So when you're chasing those smaller guys around these bigger screens, those nights are a real pain. Bradley Beal's another one, but obviously those are superstars that people talk about. But the guys that you don't talk about are like the J.J. Redicks and like the Evan Fourniers when he was in Orlando, just being a pain in the ass to guard. So.
J-Mac's chomping at the bit on this stuff.
There's a lot of good material to ask Danny Green about. I mean, you know how good of a dancer this guy is?
He used to be
a great dancer, and him and LeBron would do this dance. Do you remember this? Did Joakim Noah?
I do remember. So I started in college, by the way.
Yeah, he was a good dancer at UNC. Him and LeBron would dance before the game and then on the court, and Joakim Noah got so mad he started talking trash from the bench. Nearly a fight broke out.
It was disrespectful. I was a rookie. I was a little dumb. I was following what the old guys made me do. And afterwards, looking back, like we probably shouldn't have been dancing during a timeout or in the middle of the game. It was a little disrespectful, so I understand where Joakim was coming from. And I wouldn't say I kind of got in a little bit of trouble with the front office during that time. Not big trouble, but they're like, listen, young fella, you can't really – these guys are vets. You're a rookie. You can't do what they do. So that was one of my bringing to the office, talking to principal moments.
What, without delving into too much of your private NBA life, what's LeBron like as a teammate? I mean, he literally can't go to a restaurant in America.
Yeah, I mean, that's a gift and a curse being in that type of situation. I don't want to be that famous. But he's a humble guy. He's a lot of fun. He's a big kid. So he's one of the best teammates I've had.
Really?
Him and Timmy, probably the best teammates that I've had. Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan. Really?
Yeah, so Timmy and Bron are probably the best teammates I've ever had.
Securing
and obviously
themselves?
you got Kyle Lowry, Manu. There's a couple guys that I favor for sure. But when it comes to superstardom, and that's the most humble and that have the most fun or that can, talk to you and be relatable is Bron and Timmy.
How about that? That speaks well. The two biggest stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one time watching when the Spurs were in their prime, and I was in Portland. I was a local sports reporter, and I was in the food area was by where the bus pulled in, and the Spurs were so funny because you become your star. Like Michael Jordan dressed beautifully, so the Bulls could often be really high.
You can see the whole team look like him.
So Duncan is wearing old jeans and a T-shirt, and I mean they pulled that bus in, and it looked like
the whole team
could have been plumbers, tall plumbers. They get off the bus,
construction group.
That's what they look like, and they're all like, and I'm like. They're all like in old sneakers. They walked in and won by 28, left town. And Popovich,
team sweats.
And it was funny because Popovich was at that time, big personality, big, strong. And I mean, that team just walked into, like the Patriots and the hoodie. They just walked into Portland, bus stopped. They showed up almost right. It felt like it was almost just game time. In, out, boom, won by 28, left. And they blew out Portland. And that culture there.
Saved a lot of money in that culture, for sure. You don't have to keep up with anybody. You have to look fashionable.
So I'm right on this. That's
100% right. So Timmy was the standard, which was comfortable, and guys were like, there was a time where in Carolina we had to wear suits to the game.
Why?
That just was the standard. That's what Coach Williams expected of you. We wore a suit and tie to the games.
Oh my God!
And coaches used to have to wear suits at all games. Now it's a little different, a little more comfortable. And certain teams, you have to wear team sweats or a certain uniform back then. Now it's changed a ton, and guys can wear whatever they want, be comfortable. And San Antonio was always, we follow the lead guy, and he's in sandals and shorts, maybe jean shorts. It's like, all right, he's comfortable. We don't have any uniform, have to wear team sweats or anything like that. So be comfortable.
You have a podcast?
I do, inside the green room with Harrison Sanford, my co-host. Big shout out to him.
It's great seeing you. You're
Thanks,
always
same.
welcome on this show.
Thank you.
I will say right now, this is my opinion. Milwaukee feels like a good fit. Oklahoma City feels like a good fit. And the Lakers feel like a good fit. Am I wrong on that?
I don't disagree. I think there's a couple other good fits out there too.
Do you want to mention one?
But I do like those groups.
You can mention another one.
I mean, I have a lot of relationships with past coaches. You know, Frank Vogel. Congratulations to him.
Well, the Suns could certainly use a guy off the.
There's a said Adrian Griffin just got the Milwaukee job, so I had him in Toronto. But there's definitely some upcoming teams that are good. Sacramento's coming out and doing well.
What if Popovich called him and said, we need a veteran to show Wembanyama?
I'd always take Pop's call, even when it's not about basketball. But
they need some veterans.
They do. It's interesting how quickly they turn it around or can turn it around.
Yeah. Good seeing you, buddy.
Same. Thank you so much.
Green. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.